It's a beautiful night. We're looking for something dumb to do. Hey, baby, I think I wanna marry you. Is it the look in your eyes, or is it this dancing juice? Who cares, baby? I think I wanna marry you.
Marry you. Mr. Bruno Mars himself right there for us. It's Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Power of intention. First off, obviously I got to say the name of the show. I do wanted a quick shout out and thank you for the generosity. My gosh, it's just blowing my mind, the generosity that's coming from people. So thank you all very, very much. Brian and Kimberly especially, you guys are amazing. So thank you. I appreciate that. Excuse me. The power of intention. This is something I've experienced in a few times in my life. It's something that I just had a discussion with someone this morning in the coffee shop about, that I think it's the same kind of concept at work. I'm bringing it up because I'll be honest, I haven't figured out how to intentionally get to this energy space. But life has pushed me into this intentional energy space, or this energy space, a few times. And from that place, the intention that was made by me, the more of a, this has to happen, that force that comes out. And I know a bunch of us have experienced this. You reach that place where you just, it's an emotional response to the universe, basically. Almost, well, essentially to yourself is really how I think it plays out because of what I've said and how I really believe the mechanisms, how they work. But it's that moment when it's so, it has to happen. And you've got that emotion behind it. That seems to be some of the most amazing, life-changing things that have happened in my life. Like immediately my path forked and I began to kind of go through progressions. So just to kind of do a quick version of my story, then I'll cover my friends. For me, when I came back from Tennessee, I literally started my life over. What I couldn't mail back, stayed in Tennessee. So I gave away a lot of stuff and I literally just packed what I could in boxes and that was it. Came home, had very little money to my name. But I mean, I had a little money, but not much. I had a job. I mean, pretty much stopped the day before I left. But all these things, starting over, right? So I get here, I get a job. You know, it was low 30s or something like that I started out with. And really, over a successive period of time, things changed. Now, how it kind of played out is I got to a point where my parents kind of helped my brother and I get into a condo. We paid him back within a year, all this good stuff. And then my brother wanted to get out of this whole condo thing when the market was really good and I needed to buy him out. So at that point in my life, I was no longer making enough money to completely support my way of life. So I got a job working at a coffee shop, not the one I'm at particularly now, a different chain that everyone's heard of. I was working there for about 5.5 years. I was a shift lead. I was doing 35 hours a week. So on top of my 40-hour-a-week job, I was working 35 hours a week at this coffee chain. And I was barely scraping by. In fact, the food that we got to throw away at night was frequently my dinner. So it became kind of a place where from where I was at in life, it became kind of this declaration, and it was done in not anger, but that frustration that like, God, what is up? Like this, like whatever. I don't know what that emotion is. I don't even know. For me to not be able to describe something, obviously, right? Because I love describing things. It's frustration, anger, exhaustion, whatever. But 75 hours a week for an extended period of time, which I did, gets extremely tiresome. So from that place in my life, I got a new job working at a company doing report stuff, and that's where I started really getting into coding, and I took a little bit of where I was at from my prior job. I got myself a reasonably good raise, probably almost a 20% raise to go to this new company. Worked there 5 years, ended up jumping into I went to a mortgage company from that first job, got a nice bump in pay, like I said, worked there a year, then got laid off. Then from getting laid off, got a job and actually got about an equivalent raise. So within a short period of time, I've got about a 50% raise in my salary. From that point was the first time where I was able to kind of stop working nights at the coffee shop and I was able to just kind of work weekends. My point is from that level, this has to change, this outward declaration to the universe, because again, I still knew how stuff seemed to work, but I was frustrated. I didn't quite understand. Well, I knew why I was where I was at, and I was in a good place, and I was heading in a great direction, but that particular place I was at was brutal. It was really hard on me, as just far as spiritually, mentally, emotionally, all that stuff. 75 hours a week is a lot to work. When you think about drive time in between, on top of that, when you think about trying to make dinner when you get home, when you think about the fact that you're probably going to get 5 hours of sleep again and get to do it all over again, and you learn to power nap during your 30-minute lunch and get a 25-minute nap to make a difference in your day. Again, from that place, and this can be, the same when you're trying to attract someone back in your life, or when you're trying to attract love, maybe there's this, it has to happen. Like, this has to occur. Again, I've seen this happen more when it comes to life stuff than so much meeting someone. I've never really, like I said, I don't know how to do this intentionally, but I'm trying to bring this to attention because I think it's good to understand, and then you can look back at your life and go, yeah, I can think of times where this happened. So my point is, my question to you also is, what is it at that moment? Because it's utilizing all the things I talk about, emotions there, the absolute declaration of the universe. It's a command even at that point, really. Like, it's just very impressive. And then from there, it seems like doors start opening, and I was going through them and following and going down and seeing life improve. Now, my friend, for example, has a situation where she was living in a really small apartment. Her mother moved in with her and this gentleman. I know them both. They're just a beautiful couple. And her mother moved in eons ago and has always been there. And it's been a small place, like an 1,100 square foot. I don't know what that is in cubic meters. Probably just a little more than a third of that, whatever, right? Like 350 square meters maybe. Really small. So from that standpoint, mom moves in. Oh, okay. And then she gets the spare bedroom that she was sharing with this lady's child. She finally moved out, fortunately. And then her brother fell on somewhat of hard times, and he needed to move in. And they're an Italian family, so they kind of, that's how you keep it. That's how you do it, right? You close with family. So now the brother's living in this tiny place. Well, gee whiz, it makes it even more fun. Just not too horribly long ago, a couple years ago maybe, her dad moves in with them. There are now, fortunately the daughter moved out, but there are now 5 grown adults, 2 of which need special help, are all living in this tiny apartment. And the mom and the dad, the mom absolutely hates the dad. The dad's like pretty cool, sounds like. He's pretty indifferent. Yeah, whatever. I divorced her. They divorced like years ago. Mom still has anger towards him. Dad doesn't care anymore. But whatever the case is, it's not a happy living environment. So a lot of things kind of transpired and occurred. She got a big bump in pay. She ends up moving into basically a 3-bedroom now that she can basically afford because of this bump in pay. But it all came from that same, this can't be, that frustration, that what the F, right? Like, no, I refuse to do this any longer this way. This has to change now. And it is from that command, that power, that is amazing how much change that produces in our life. I know a bunch of us have experienced this in times in our life, and now when you look back on it, you'll be like, no, yeah, you're right. Major changes happened. It's all law of attraction plus the other laws. It's all of that stuff happening, but it is such a great demonstration of the pieces at work. 1, it is the, intention. 2, it's the emotion. 3, it's an outward, it's like I'm saying this must happen. Like I'm commanding this to God or universe or whatever, whoever you were saying it to at the time. And then oddly, it comes back. It's like proof almost of all these concepts, right? Not proof, I don't know. It's hard to prove. Like I said, I've been listening to a lot of like naysayers, and it's just interesting. I mean, they've got some great points. There's parts of some people that talk about law of attraction, and if you cut some of my stuff apart, I'd sound like this too. I'm like, I say that sometimes too. But I do get into the other aspects of it, which seem to be caveats that some of these people bring up. But again, it's just like, yeah, it's not airy-fairy. It's not, hey, just be positive. No, there's more to it than that. I totally believe that, without a doubt. I think how you treat people and what you're thinking, saying, and doing, without a doubt, but being positive towards, an outcome is definitely better than the opposite. When we're negative about something, we tend to give up. We tend to beat ourselves up, right? So all of this stuff amounts to pushing out a concept, an intention, a desire, and doing it with a level of emotion. Now, that's why we talk about when trying to get your specific person back, why it's so important to have that love. Because from the standpoint of a relationship, love is a better grabber than by frustration. Frustration's great when it comes to getting stuff. So if you're trying to change your life in that way, and you can get to some place where you're like, oh, I have to do this. I have to move out because of, or this needs to happen. You reach that place where like you're seeing deadlines looming and things have to happen or else. And it's that, who knows if it would just happen anyway, right? If you didn't get angry. But it seems like and then all of a sudden, there it is. It's incredible how it happens. And again, I was talking to the lady today, and she's, they've been in this place now for 6 months. It's still a lot of work. So, yes, there's more room, and that's the one thing she was talking about. It's like, oh my God, thank God there's more room. We can at least deal. But the two parents that need special attention still need a lot of special attention. And her husband end up spending a lot of time, and they both work, mind you. They both work 40-hour weeks. They find themselves, and the brother helps out, I guess, a lot, but they find out on the weekends that they just divide, don't get to see each other much. By the time they get back home and have taken care of all the responsibilities of taking care of these two elderly people that have special needs. She was just telling me last night I was eating dinner at 8 o'clock and then she crawled into bed. That's it. So you start to think about how life starts to produce things. Sometimes it can feel like things are just crushing in on us. And you've got to grab hold sometimes. It's the intention. The intention, I've said many a time, is a lot to do. People ask, how do you do? How do you do? Is there some special thing you need to do? Do I need to do this fancy special thing? I truly am not. Rituals are great, or practices or routines are great because they're repetitive and they're easy to do. That's the only reason I think they're useful, period. It's the intention that matters. How I do it, if I do it through a fancy means, if I do it through some sort of written thing, if I do it through some sort of spoken thing, it's the intention. It's saying, universe, this is what I'd like. Done. Do it. Make it so. I know that's how it's going to happen. I just need to ask, and then it shall be. So cool. So again, if I've had someone, I was just hitting me up the other day, they found me on Instagram and started asking me all sorts of questions. It was like, okay, I don't even know if they listened to my show, frankly. They ended up referencing a video, and I haven't shared a video on Instagram in God knows how long, because it's so much work, right? So she's hitting me up on all these questions, and I'm like, ultimately, it's up to you. It's your intention. Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? It's like, it doesn't matter. Do what you feel right doing, and that's to everyone. It's all about getting that intention out there. Questioning it constantly is not. It's the opposite. That's why I keep saying the small moments in between. It's the space between is so important. Because those are a majority of the moments. We do the intention at night, and a lot of us want to believe, all right, I've done my work. No, really, during the day is where it's at. That's why kind of the asking almost doesn't matter, because the doing and the constant thoughts end up really kind of, I think, overpowering the 5-10 minutes we might have put in back here. But then, during an hour and a half today, I was having negative thoughts. Well, that's probably more intention. And then you get emotionally all jacked, and now you're sending that out. That's where most of us are stuck. That's why most of us are taking longer than we necessarily want. Again, all of our stories are different, mine included. It's not, if you're definitely wanting to be in another place and that is your goal and that's what matters, then make that your focus, make that your sole focus and get there. Now, should that be a relationship? No, I don't think it's healthy to make a relationship your sole focus, because that means there's nothing else going on in your world. And that's not necessarily positive. Now, maybe it works in your case. Again, all situations are different, But I want to clarify that because I can see a lot of people coming back to me and saying, so if it's a relationship, no, that's going to be the one place where I'm going to throw a caveat on you. If it's a relationship, I think you should be focused on yourself. I think you should be taking care of yourself. I think all these things are way more important when trying to get in a relationship with someone else. You want to be bringing to the table something as well, a good person, a person that's not all needy, and you know what I mean? And if your sole focus is them, that means you're there for them. So either A, they're going to have to reciprocate back. It's just not a balanced situation. I don't even want to go into all the ways it's not a balanced situation. If you're going to be a stay-at-home wife, all right, maybe that should be your sole focus, right? And then you can have your kids and your whole focus is the family. Well, in that case, kind of makes sense. And yeah, I guess just think about that and all the stuff will work itself out. So again, all things are different. There's no one size fits all in anything, in diet, in life, and manifesting. It's concepts that we have to apply towards our situation. So again, when you can get the intention put out there and get some emotion behind it or some emotion behind it, because either way, right? Emotion behind it gives it that power. And if you can figure out a way to enhance that and make the intention, then you've gone a long way in speeding up the process. Now, anyone that's experienced this thing that I've talked about, chime in, please, in the comments. It'd just be, I think, a good for other people to see, yeah, no, Dan's not crazy. He's not just totally talking out his thing he's sitting on right now. Because I've talked to a lot of people, and this has happened to me on a number of occasions in life, and usually through growth spurts. But it's just interesting how they play out. And when you look back on them, that hindsight is 20/20 that I've talked about. And you look back and you're like, yeah, that's kind of what I was doing. And when you do that, and then in light of what you know right now, and you look back at what you did then, you're like, ooh, okay. Now all of a sudden, what didn't make a lot of sense then makes a lot of sense now. And that's why so many people frequently say, don't worry about understanding why. That will make more sense down the road for sure. It always does, right? Don't worry about the why. Why? Why do I got to do that? Who cares? Don't worry about it. If you don't understand the why, that's wisdom, by the way. Why is a wisdom. I love asking why. Whys are great questions. That's wisdom, so don't feel bad about asking. That's fantastic. Problem is, if you don't understand why, it's because, as I've said in another show, we don't understand past choices, or we can't see past choices that we don't understand. Meaning, at some point down the road, you're going to do something that's amazing compared to where you are right now, and everything that happens after that is different, and your whole perspective of life has changed. And kind of the same thing that happened with me when I had my life shift and I started having to work less. And really that whole concept of feeling more wealthy became easier and easier as I wasn't working 75 hours a week. And I was able to start focusing on other things. And it's just been a wonderful progression from there. And, I'm in a totally different place, absolutely comfortable. Work at the coffee shop only because I like it. And I just like the customers so much. So like one day a week is like, yeah, whatever. They'll let me do it and I get free coffee during the week. So it's like, all right, that's a win-win. So again, it's all cool how it plays out. But I just want people to understand it's the power of the intention. The intention is what matters so much. And then trying to get some oomph behind it, you're gold. The 12 spiritual laws are at work always. There's no turning them on and off. There's no doing something this way or that way to make them work. They're always at work. Gravity is always affecting you, regardless if you understand how gravity works. It's always happening. You don't have to know that it's pulling you down at 8.6 meters per second, the acceleration due to gravity. I think it's 32 feet, too, for the Americans, but in physics, you always used metric because it made more sense. Anyway, getting off track as always, that's me, right? So, anywho, that is the intention, the power of intention, whatever my whole concept of this show was. That's what I'm talking about. Going out with a song by, I want to say it's Izzy. I think it's Izzy, maybe, that Hawaiian dude that unfortunately passed away. But Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Great song. Right here on Dan Radio Style.
Someday you wish upon a star. Wake up where the clouds are far behind.